This is the mandala. Everything on here has a meaning. Everything on here has a meaning. It took me about 2 hours to make. The longest thing was the flames because I hate coloring. So before I get into it, I want to talk about a moment. I was talking to my stepsister's best friend's dad. And basically we had a whole talk about the Anunnaki. We had to talk about entities. We had to talk about, you know, just spirituality on a more conspiracy level. Which normally I'm not really that into conspiracies. Or if a conspiracy does come to me, I will go through hoops trying to connect science and spirituality. It's just what I do. You know, I am a very facts person. I might not seem like it, but I be thinking up here. Anyway, so we were talking and he brought up something. This was probably a month and a half ago, maybe even 2 months ago, but he was talking about how mandalas, he showed me a video about how a 2D mandala was put into the computer to get a 3D representation of a mandala. And when they did that, they noticed that the mandala turned into an institute, like a school, when put into a 3D programming. And he told me that, you know, monks would meditate around a mandala. They would spend their time creating it, then they would meditate in it. And a lot of the monks, the Buddhist monks or whatever, would talk about how they would go kind of transfer into the mandala and learn from deities, entities, whatever that lived inside these institutes, and they would help teach them about the world and the way of life and everything. And so I kind of thought about that, and it always stuck in the back of my mind. A month later, I was like, you know, I think it's time for a shroom trip, and I thought back to the mandala. I was like, what if I decided to create a mandala with the intention of learning something, of going deep into this mandala, kind of like, actually think Mary Poppins, the scene where they have all the like chalk paintings and then they kind of just like jump into a painting and they're like immersed into that whole chalk painting. That's exactly what I'm trying to get you to think about when we think about mandalas. So basically that was my idea. I was like, what if I can create my own type of mandala, go on shrooms, meditate around it, asking for, you know, how the world is going to work. I needed to do my research first. So before I show the mandala, I just want to say that I really did do a lot of research because I thought that having the correct symbols, having the right intention and everything was going to go right. It actually kind of did not go as planned, but it did go right. And that's kind of how the world works, you know, trusting in the universe. But basically, let me talk about the symbolism of the mandala, and let me show you. So this does not look like a normal mandala. As you can see, I took different colored pieces of paper that I had and I just taped them around. Now this has been for about a month, so it's pretty old. This is how it turned out. The pieces of paper that are also on top, I actually started to create a mandala, but if you know something about me, I cannot draw for shit. I cannot draw for shit. I can draw stick figures and I can draw cool little abstract symbols that come together and look pretty cool, but me trying to create a mandala, honestly, the hardest thing ever was some color pencils and everything. So I kind of just gave up. I got really high and I hadn't been smoking weed for a long time, but my intention was to just create something with the intention that I had for my shroom experience. So that's why it ended up working, and I will go in depth on how that works, even though it's not an actual mandala. But for right now, I want to talk about the symbolism of the mandala and why, just because it doesn't look like a regular mandala, doesn't mean that it's not. Just because I have all of the symbols incorporated into it, every time I drew something on the piece of paper, it was intentional. There was a bunch of intention backing behind these silly little drawings. And that's, I guess, what I'm trying to get you to understand is it does not matter how the mandala looks. It does not matter what exactly you're doing, what action you're taking. It's about the intention behind it. The action has to match the intention to bring forth the results, the worthwhile results that you want to bring into your life. Starting here, right around here, as you see, I did it on the perimeter of the mandala because this is called the Ring of Fire. And honestly, this was the longest thing. I sat there, like I said, I was balls to the wall high. I was just like, let me just vibe. I decided to draw a bunch of flames around. This is probably the only artistic thing that I did, but yeah. So basically, the very first thing is the Ring of Fire. It serves as a boundary between the outer world full of chaos and the sanctity found within the mandala. So my idea when creating this was like, okay, kind of think of like the root chakra, grounding. It's like you need to kind of protect yourself from the chaos that is in the outside world when you're deciding to go in and meditate and find enlightenment within the mandala, within your body, vessel, whatever, okay? Fire, remember, the whole world is all connected. Everything is connected through elements, shapes, color, frequency, whatever. Everything gives off a certain frequency, so this is why this works. Even color, exactly. So fire is a ritual element representing the wisdom found within the mandala. Okay, next we have the Ring of Vajras. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but again, it's about the intention. And I do want to say a quick little story about intention and not having the words right. Like I said, I'm self-teaching myself all of this. When I was going, I went to a performing arts school, Las Vegas Academy of Performing Arts. And one of the monologues that you have to do to audition to get into the school is called the Jabberwocky. The Jabberwocky is this poem or this little scene or whatever from Alice in Wonderland. And basically what the adjudicators or the judges were looking for was basically how confident you can be in presenting a piece that everybody else also had. And something that I learned and that my mom told me that always stuck with me was it doesn't matter how you say the words. The Jabberwocky, the poem, is full of a whole bunch of words that don't even make sense, that probably don't even have correct pronunciations, and I probably didn't pronunciate them right, but it's about the confidence that I had backing it when I performed it, to the point where, because I looked like I was confident and was saying it right, you might have questioned yourself, being like, oh, maybe that is how you say it right, because I had so much confidence behind it. So if this is Vajras, and I say it with confidence, then so be it, because I know what I'm talking about, I know the intention behind it. Again, all about intention. Vajras is the Sanskrit word for both thunderbolt and diamond, meaning truth and power. When combined, the thunderbolt and power represent purity and indestructibility. Again, not the best drawer, but I did know that the Ring of Vajra is the second ring and it needed to be behind the Ring of Fire. So I literally, let's see if you can see it, right here. So there's like a ring, thunderbolt or whatever. And on the side, I'll show what my notes looked like. This is kind of what I was going for. I know it does not look the same, but like I said, I kind of just gave up and I was like, you know what? This is just gonna have to be whatever I think matters. So yeah, the Ring of Vajras, that represented purity and indestructibility. And that goes around my mandala, meaning like wherever I'm going, I'm gonna be purified and indestructible by the time that I come out. Again, that was my intention behind that piece of the mandala. So moving on, we have the Ring of Lotus. Now the meaning of the lotus flower, now this is supposed to be a whole bunch of lotus flowers around the ring or type, whatever. Like I said, I tried to do that, but I failed. So all I did was just get some pieces of paper that were gonna represent the lotus, and I literally wrote lotus all around on each piece of paper. Lotus, lotus, lotus. And that's what it meant to me. And that's why it worked, because my intention, remember. So now the lotus flower, a lot of people know this, but I'll go over it again. The meaning of the lotus is all about enlightenment, rebirth, resurrection. So do you see how kind of, as we create this mandala, it's almost as if we're creating a new beginning. We're creating a place where we're going in away from chaos to learn something new. That was the intention behind the mandala. There's this little poem or little quote from a lotus flower that I really like. It says, "From the murky mud of life grows the purely beautiful lotus flower, trusting in its own unfolding." And that's what we're supposed to do as we begin to learn our self-development, to grow in our self-development, and trust ourselves. We trust in our own unfolding. We trust that things are happening for us, not to us or not against us. And as that happens, we begin to unfold our true selves, and then we begin to be the magician of life. The magician is a tarot card, the first tarot card. It talks about taking control over your life, having the magic wand over your life, being able to speak things into existence, being able to create intentional action towards your intentional thought, creating a reality that you intentionally set out for yourself. Camera quality changed because my phone is out of storage, but the show must go on. So moving on, we have, there's in a normal mandala, I don't want to say normal, but in a traditional mandala, there's something called an inner square. So after you got your rings, after you have the outside layer, you're going to have the inner square, which begins to structure out the institute within it. I mentioned how the institute has a bunch of deities in there that basically are kind of, or entities, basically kind of waiting for you to go in and learn from them. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but yeah, that's what it is. So basically, as you begin to structure out the institute, you're using the 4 cardinal directions. That's north, south, east, and west. And they are also represented by colors. Colors give off a certain frequency. Things give off a certain frequency. That is represented in my thing. So I just kind of had the idea. I did the lotus in 4 corners because I knew that I was going to need to structure out a kind of 4-cornered kind of thing for the institute. So north was green, represented by green. West, blue. South is yellow. I literally just wrote south, and then east, red. Like I said, not the best drawer, but that's about it. So that's the institute. And with that, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm finished. But it didn't look how I wanted it to look. So I decided to do a little more research. Now, within a mandala, there's also other things that you can incorporate to kind of strengthen the energy of what intention you're kind of telling your mandala to do. This is the same thing of what I've been talking about in my chakra series, about how the more frequencies of something that you put into one thing, you're kind of just creating more energy so that it's a little stronger. Same thing for this. It's like a mixing pot. It's like cooking. The more seasonings you put into your dish that match up, the better it's going to taste. Seasonings with like cayenne pepper, onions, nature seasoning, all of that is going to taste better than a dish with just salt and pepper. Still probably good, still representing the same thing, just one's going to be a little better. Now, you can't really see it because I covered it, but the elements are represented by triangles, and I'll put them up. They look like this, but each element, air, fire, water, wind, earth, are represented by triangles. There's a lot of other symbols that I incorporated into this that they just have meanings, and I just needed them on the piece of paper. And so technically the 4 triangles, their pointed ends are supposed to face toward each other, creating a square, which is the foundation, the structure for the institute. But like I said, just if you're creating this by yourself or on your own, whatever, do what is comfortable to you. As long as you have the right intention behind each thing that you put on it, you're good to go. Do you want to talk about this? So I like to have flowers. I like to buy myself yellow flowers, and I do like to keep them all the way until they die and longer until I get a new one. So I had some flower petals that had just fallen off of this flower, and on one of the symbols, flowers represent renewal and spirit. And I was like, that's actually genius. I want to incorporate this into my mandala. So what I did, I took the flowers, and you can see since it's been here for a month, they're kind of like decaying or rotting. So I definitely have to throw this away before I get bugs. But I basically took the flower petals and I set them down, just laid them on actually some pieces that I wanted to cover. These are actually the triangles. You can't really see them, but I basically just covered them because I thought that they were ugly, but they still are serving their purpose. Basically, I just put the flowers down with the intentions of renewal and spirit, and then I taped it down so that it would stay. And the reason I taped it down is because I have a cat and she's like running all over the place, and I was working later on that day, and I wanted to take my selenite wand and like my protective talisman that I made, and I wanted to set it on the mandala to kind of charge the mandala to get ready for what I was about to do the next day. So I'll go over a couple of the symbols real quick. We have animals represent instincts and subconscious nature. Birds represent the human soul and spiritual transformation. It also symbolizes the wind element. Butterflies represents a transformation and the life cycle, life, death, and resurrection. Circles represent eternity and the protected space of life and nature. A cross, known as the connection between the spiritual and material worlds, where the two meet, the access points. I've got a cross right here. And like I said, what I did with the symbols, I literally just kind of wrote them around on each one, wherever I felt inclined. I really just did this so intuitively, like I just kind of went for it. Triangles, energy and enthusiasm. Tree, an access of the world, a symbol of life and reincarnation. Stars, a reminder that as a being with a soul, you must seek out your destiny by making a connection with your inner self. I really like that one. I drew a bunch of stars on each part of that. There's a couple more. I'll probably put them in the description if you want to look at them. But that's what I mean when I basically just created this just with a whole bunch of symbolism behind it. And when I first began my Shroom experience and I started to get into it, after I learned the Trinity within me, I was like, I had this on my bed the entire time, and I kind of just laid in my bed the whole time. And I didn't really do anything with this, but it did serve its purpose. Not like how I thought. I thought that I was going to sit around it and meditate and be transported like Mary Poppins. Not really. It did serve as a talisman for energy of learning. So although I spent about 2 hours doing this, that was 2 hours that I spent with an intentional thought matched with intentional action, that when it was time for me to do my Shroom experience, I was already in that energy. I was in the energy of wanting to learn. I kind of created the energy of an institute of learning, but instead of learning from deities or any entities that I thought that I was going into, and maybe it is because I did the mandala wrong, who knows, but like I said, I feel as though when you're on shrooms, you kind of just are led to where you need to be, not where you want to be. And as you begin to grow on your spiritual development or spiritual journey, your wants and needs become the same thing. And I'll get more into my lesson, but this is the beginning. This is how I started in my Shroom experience, what the intention was behind it. It was to learn about the world. It was to learn about my place in the world, and that is exactly what happened for me. We'll get into the contents of the Shroom trip next week. We're going to learn about the Trinity within me, or whatever, within all of us is what I mean. But I want to explain what happened the first 45 minutes of going into that Shroom experience that was different from my other experiences. So I hope you guys enjoyed just me talking. I feel like I rushed this video a little bit, but I really wanted to take my day off yesterday. I worked a 13-hour shift on Monday. Yesterday was Tuesday, and I really just sat. I started the show Manifest, which is pretty good, but it's also giving me ideas about following your intuition, following the inner voice. So I think I was definitely led to watch that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you stick around for the other episodes. I definitely have some footage from when I was on shrooms, so this one was just kind of like a beginning part, and yeah, I don't know. Thanks for joining, and I'll see y'all next week. Also, after this video is going to be my solar plexus video later on this week, because I feel that that is needed before learning the next part of the Trinity within me. Yeah. I'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching. Bye. And remember to be kind.
Listen.